Hello, my fellow main characters. Man, this is a weird video. This is a weird video. I'll just be super direct about it, right? The ending of My Hero Academia has happened in the manga. And I don't know how to feel about it, man. Oh man, I'm so torn about it. Because I knew it was coming, right? Like after we beat Shigaraki and like kind of how the story was progressing, I was like, well, after we beat Shigaraki slash All for One, based on how the story was progressing, I was like, okay, the ending is coming. And so putting off that reality for myself, I let the chapter stack and I chose not to watch it. There was even for this current season, I put off watching My Hero Academia. And I love My Hero Academia, guys. Like, look at my channel name, right? I recently changed it from BAM to Buff All Might because BAM, for those of you guys that don't know, BAM represented Black All Might. But I felt there was another content creator that was named Black All Might before, so I changed my name to BAM. But I wanted to represent All Might a little bit more and what I was doing, and I was going through a whole character evolution type stuff, and so Buff All Might came through. Maybe in another video I'll talk about that, or maybe in this video. We'll see how this video goes. I'll talk a little bit more about that name change. But All Might, My Hero Academia has been a big influence in my life as a nerd, as a content creator, as a person into fitness and working out. Major big influence in everything. Even when I first started doing my YouTube channel, My Hero Academia, I think season 1 or season 2 was out during that time, and that was a big influence on my channel, on my first channel I had before, and it has stuck with me all the way up until this point. And based on the lessons and stuff I've learned from My Hero Academia, it's going to continue on with me throughout life. I'm a big hero fan. I love Marvel and DC stuff. I love the whole concept of superheroes, people that you know, put their nose out there for other people and care about other people and put themselves out there and is strong enough to be there for people. I love the concept of heroes, just absolutely love it. And I love anime, and My Hero Academia came out as an anime about superheroes, and it was fantastic. It was great. I loved it, absolutely, you know. And there's always a hero element to most stories in anime, to be honest, but there was nothing more direct than My Hero Academia. And so I want to give a big thanks and shout out to Horikoshi for creating this series that has inspired me and has been in my life for so long now. And so I was putting off reading those last couple chapters, and finally last night I decided to read through them, and My Hero Academia is done. The story of Deku, the world's greatest hero, is completed. We still didn't get to figure out who Deku's dad is. So we left with a little bit of plot hole there. But ultimately, as a My Hero Academia fan, I appreciate the story that Horikoshi created. It did fall off at points. You know, there were some points where I wish Horikoshi spent a little bit more time in. I wish certain characters got a little bit more limelight and a little bit more of their own moment, especially during the war. But ultimately it's Horikoshi's story and how he wanted to do it, and whatever constraints was influencing him and how he wanted to do it. I full complete respect to his process. But man guys, wow. It is crazy. It's crazy to think that this series is done, man. There's a part of me that's hoping that Horikoshi makes a spin-off series in the future, or like a time skip where we see other characters and the story of My Hero Academia is not done. And I love how Horikoshi kind of I would have been okay with the ending, like the ending of, you know, Deku being like a teacher and like, you know, like teaching up the next generation. I would have been okay with that, but I do appreciate that little fourth wall break in the where All Might destroys the end symbol and says, hey, we created this this basically the super tech, high tech advanced suitcase that transforms into a whole battle suit that you could use to do your hero work. I absolutely love that, and it kind of calls back to desires from a huge portion of the community that we had in the past. In the past, a lot of people desired for Deku to remain quirkless and for him to be more of like a Batman kind of character, where instead of him being a hero through having a power, he would be a hero through his genius and through different gadgets and strategies that he was implementing. And so this kind of is almost like a throwback to that initial desire and hope that a lot of people that first started My Hero Academia all the way back to season 1 and the first couple chapters was really hoping for Deku to become. So it's kind of cool that we get that little like, hey Deku, even though you don't have a quirk anymore, here's this whole Iron Man like suit that you can use to fight crime and stuff. So that's pretty cool. Would love to see elements of that suit being used, but of course the series is over and I think it ended off in a pretty good way. I personally was a fan of looking forward to seeing what relationships would have manifested and developed, but I also feel like Horikoshi leaving it as in like, no, they're just doing their thing, being heroes. I totally respect that too, but hashtag definitely a Red Riot and Pinky, the like what was it, Kirishima, and oh my gosh, I can't be forgetting her name, Purple Girl that produces acid. You guys know what I'm talking about. Purple Pink Girl, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? I feel so bad for not remembering her name. Ashido. I was a big fan of them creating a relationship, and I really feel like all that setup was created for that. And then of course we have NG and the girl with the I can't believe I'm forgetting these characters' names. I love this show so much, but I'm blanking on their names. The girl with headphone jack, you know, like them creating a relationship that was set up like all the way from season 1, honestly. And of course Deku and Ochako, so hoping that there's some relationship stuff happening still, but I understand if Horikoshi does not express that as like a big deal to the story, but is implied. We get a feeling that these characters are probably going to get together and date and do all that stuff, so you know what I mean, like it's implied that. But man, it's wild to me that My Hero Academia is done, bro. Oh man, I think it's because it's been in my life for years now. It's been with me since I was in college, and I'm like a full adult now, and that series has marked a big impact in my life. Part of me wants to rewatch it from season 1, low key, to kind of relive that vibe and that energy, and I might actually do that. Oh man guys, yeah, this video has no other purpose than just me just reminiscing about my hero and sharing my thoughts and feelings about it, and also my gratitude to Horikoshi for the story he created. And I hope this is not the end of Horikoshi in terms of the work and stuff he does, but if he wants to take a break and chill and enjoy his success and, you know, go to like the Bahamas and just chill out, yo, Horikoshi, you deserve it. Do what you want to do, man. Oh man, so many good memories from my hero, man. So many good influences. Such a good story about the nature of villainy and the nature of being a hero. Right, the idea that I love the idea in My Hero Academia where it's not this Saturday morning cartoon villain that's just bad for the purpose of being bad, which was All For One, right? Like All For One was that archetype of character, but most villains within the series are just human beings that were scarred by the society they lived in, and the only way for them to exist, the only way for them to express how they felt, the only way for them to find solace and community was to turn in opposition to the society that they lived in. And became a villain, right? A lot of the people in the League of Villains had different reasons for why they became villains, and they became villains together not because they were bad, so to speak, but because it was their way of saying, this is how I find a community, this is how I find the ability to be myself, this is how I find a way to express this suffering and trauma that I've experienced. And I love that Horikoshi really locks in on that idea when we look at a League of Villains and the different characters in them, because it feels more real and relevant for the world that we live in right now, which is like, yeah, people aren't just a-holes for the sake of being a-holes. People aren't just bad or evil for the sake of being bad or evil. At least in 99% of all cases. Sometimes all it takes is a little bit of empathy. All it takes is sometimes a little bit of questioning and diving into someone's life to really understand why this person's making this choice, right? Why this person is doing this thing, or doing this, why this person's stealing, why this person's doing insert bad thing, you know? Not to say that that person shouldn't be punished or brought to justice for the bad thing that they're doing, right? But I think the society and life itself would be a lot better if that mindset, that philosophy that Horikoshi is trying to share with us gets expressed to people, and we can have a little bit more empathy towards people that is in opposition to what society is and to even our own ideas. And that's something that I can never forget from Horikoshi. Andre? Yo, you want to come into my room real quick? Huh? You want to come to my room real quick? Yeah. This is Dre. He also has his own channel called Captain Dre Million. What's up, everybody? Today, Andre, Dre, we are talking about our feelings about My Hero Academia ending. So, you know, why don't you just, me and Dre have been big fans of My Hero Academia from the beginning. Like, our channels take a lot of inspiration from My Hero Academia. Me specifically with my name, he's personally shifted a little bit more to One Piece as a bigger inspiration. But initially speaking, like, his whole color scheme was kind of based off of Deku and everything. So what's your feelings about this series ending, and just, you know, give, you know, what is not really structured videos, more of like, it's more like we just like kind of express and upload.
Yeah, I mean, for me, My Hero Academia was a very special series to me, specifically. It's what literally got me into manga, like reading manga, reading stuff like Black Clover, Dr. Stone, heck, even One Piece, right? Like, it was that show that had a lot of heart. Despite what you could say, the impurity, because it has impurities, it has flaws. Even One Piece, bro, even One Piece has flaws, but like, you know, Oda, he be fixing the flaws on the next arc.
Right.
He'd be like, hey, I know y'all said this arc was trash and Sky PL, but listen, bro, it adds up to everything in 7 arcs later, bro. So like, that's how Oda kind of does it. Yeah. But when it comes to regular series, like My Hero, for example, you know, it's not planned to go that long. You know, it's one of those type of things where I would wish for Horikoshi spending more time with villains, but I understand that fans don't really care that much about villains. That's why, like, in the final fight with Shigaraki, it was cool, it was okay, but I wanted Shigaraki's character to be more deeper. I wanted to know his meaning for destroy, right? Yeah. Because I feel like for most people, they look at Shigaraki from a surface level point of view, and not from like, what does he mean by destroy? Does he mean destroy Hero Society? Does he mean destroy and then rebuild? Right? Like does he just want to just destroy? You know, those are the questions I can see many people from a surface level may see Shigaraki as.
I always took it as Shigaraki got to this point of, because there's this line in the first initial steps to the war before the actual war, where Shigaraki gets basically outside of the tube, and he's talking to the heroes, saying like, because I'm a villain and because you guys are heroes, we won't understand each other. Yeah. So I think Shigaraki saying like, hey, society in some way has lost sight of what it means to be a hero and a villain, and we're just labeling people. So it's like, you've labeled me as a villain, and you've labeled yourselves as heroes, and that's why we won't understand each other. And so, kind of what I was talking about before is the idea of like, we taking time to really understand each other.
Yep.
And like, because no one took time to understand Shigaraki, and the only person at that time, based on Shigaraki's knowledge, was All For One, was the one that extended a hand out to him. Now we know, based on the backstory, this man was plotting from day one. But
man pulled a Aizen, bro. But crazy.
But is that first step of like, All For One was Shigaraki's hero.
Yep.
And so when Shigaraki's like, I'm going to destroy everything, he's thinking, I'm going to destroy this society that hurts the people that are my friends, the people I care about. So it's really the idea of like Shigaraki, and I think Spinner says this, like Shigaraki was a hero for the villains. He was a yeah, you know. And I think it also becomes even simpler when we look at Spinner, you know, the last couple chapters talking about the idea of like, you know, very basic. Shigaraki was his first friend.
Yeah.
So he's like, yo, that's my boy. Like, and I think it all really boils down to that idea of like friendship, boils down to the idea of like, do you relate to me? Do you connect with me? Do you extend your hand out to reach and help me? That really determines like what side you're on and who you work with and who you support. And I love Horikoshi for kind of expressing that idea, saying like, hey, don't just label people as bad. Like, actually take time to figure out who they are. Like
one of the things that made me tear up was when you see that same old lady that like we saw like almost the birth of a villain happening when the guy was walking through the alley, right? Because he never had human interaction for years, right? Never went outside for years, right? And like that same lady, you know, extended her hand out.
We're referring to like not the last chapter, but I think the chapter before the last chapter, where there's this kid that had his mouth all sealed up and everything because his parents mistreated him and locked him in the basement because they didn't understand his abilities and his powers. And it kind of throws back to that same woman that saw Shigaraki when he was a kid needing help and said like, nah, Hero's gonna do it. And the fact that she did help out this new kid, and we saw the kid's like actual eyes pop up in terms of crying, and they're like, okay,
you see the light in their eyes.
We know he's going to get help. It shows that what Shigaraki did, in a weird way, actually did destroy Hero Society. It destroyed
the current version of Hero Society, and like you see now he's in UA, bro. Now, I don't know if you peeped, but he's the new generation with Kota and Eri, and I saw it on one panel. I was like, oh, that's the same guy, and now he's being, and it showed that like he's Shigaraki, like that kid is literally Shigaraki. Like if she extended her hand to Shigaraki, then Shigaraki would have been a hero. He was planning to be a hero.
Potentially, if Shigaraki grabs her hand.
Oh, nah, you're right, bro.
So maybe, but maybe if Shigaraki had that understanding of like, oh, whenever I touch somebody, they hurt. So maybe if she extended her hand, Shigaraki would have been like, oh, I can't touch you. It's like, oh, what's wrong? It's like my quirk will destroy you. Blah blah. Who knows? But
yeah, I think My Hero Academia, like for what Horikoshi was able to craft, was a good, successful series. It's nowhere in the lanes of Fairy Tail. I'll tell you that much, bro. Like it is on a higher lane than Fairy Tail. Because Fairy Tail was just a heap of doodle butter. I mean, it's entertaining to watch the fights, but in terms of like plot organization and like just the structure, like I do think Horikoshi has a soft spot for a lot of the characters he's created in the world of My Academia. I do think in what we call the final war, I think there would be no problems killing off certain pro heroes. I feel like we could have gotten more deaths, more impactful deaths. And again, I'm not saying you need to die, but like when it comes to war, like that's what you expect. You expect casualties. You expect people to lose something, right? There's a sacrifice.
I mean, a lot of the characters lost their ability to be heroes. Like Endeavor had to retire.
Yep.
Miracle lost most of her limbs. You know.
Yo, why did I do my girl like that, bro? Oh my gosh.
It's kind of like that idea of like, even though like Miracle, I hate the fact that Miracle lost so much parts of her body. Is like it shows like she got the rabbit in her. You know what I mean? It sounds like she don't got a dog in her, but she got that rabbit in her.
She got that rabbit, bro. She's like, hey, as long as I can hop, as long as I can use my legs, I'm good.
Son.
I still think to this day she should have been. I think it would have been way better for her to be Bakugo's teacher than Best Jeanist, because her personality just makes sense for Bakugo's.
I get why Horikoshi decided to do Best Jeanist. It's kind of like the idea of like Bakugo needs to be more well-rounded.
Yes.
As a character, and Best Jeanist was kind of like almost like the opposite in terms of mentality to Bakugo. So kind of giving him a more well-rounded view of what it means to be a hero. Even though I feel like training with Miracle would be like okay in terms of personality fit. Like I think we even saw like in one of the recent anime episodes, there's an interaction between Miracle and Bakugo, and they just mesh so well. Like I feel like if Miracle and Bakugo were the same age in the same class, like they would get together.
Oh yeah, they would be. Would be like, hey, yo, you tryna, you know, and then like she would be like, hey, let's do it.
Explosive bunnies or something, bro. Like what you trying to do?
I think. Yeah, a bunny class A character would be fire. But I will say, for a question for you,
right? Okay.
I know my answer. But when did My Hero Academia for you felt like it lost its quality and lost its like that My Hero Academia feel like that? Like you could feel like it feels real as a hero. Like you can. It's not just like the like, you know, Superman comes to save the day. It kind of feels like no, like this is like I can feel the weight of being a hero with My Hero Academia.
Oh, like when it lost, or when the story changed and I realized what the story was really supposed to be.
Nah, I would say like when did it like? Because I feel like it did lose its quality at a part. I know for me, it was it had the potential to be such a like probably the best arc in the series, which I would say the Vigilante.
Yeah, I would say that arc. Like to me, I was thinking it was either the My Villain Academia arc or the Vigilante arc. I do feel like the Vigilante, My Villain Academia arc was, by concept, an amazing arc that I feel like Horikoshi, if he was permitted, could have put more oomph into that.
Yep.
Into like us really getting a deeper understanding of the villains and their motivations and all that. But I do feel like I agree with you. The Vigilante arc fell off for me. It fell off for me because it felt like Deku was taking being a hero so seriously. But and even though like I think All Might and other heroes take being a hero seriously, but I think he was taking it so seriously he lost the purpose of what it meant to be the type of hero he wants to be. So he was saving people's lives, but he wasn't leaving them feeling encouraged. He wasn't leaving them feeling hopeful. So he lost that smile. Basically, he lost that ability to like to be like, hey, the reason why you look up to All Might is the fact that like when he shows up on the scene, he not just saves people's lives, but he also leaves people feeling hopeful.
Yep. You know? I was because it's funny because I always keep daydreaming about that arc and just like how much better that arc could have been. And I think an arc that could have been really impactful would be after Deku is like fighting off the villains that we fought in the past, like Muscular, and all of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would have been really cool if we got like a little scene of like a child who is like Deku, right? And that child is, he wants to be a hero, despite what's going on with the Hero Society kind of crumbling. Like, he still has that hopeful joy, like that joy spirit that Izuku had when he was a kid, right? So it would have been cool if, like, these characters collided with Deku at one point, where, like, we see him with his parents or something, and then something tragic happens to his parents, and then Deku comes in, and he's around the battlefield, and he sees this kid, right? And they kind of interact with each other. And, like, with Deku, we see Deku just being this, like, serious, Batman-like person. But then we see this kid who, maybe Deku and him or her, have a conversation. And the conversation leads to, like I want to save people with a smile. Because I think that's the thing that was lost in My Academia. Because that was the whole thing of Deku being inspired by All Might.
Right.
Was saving people with a smile.
Yes.
And I would have loved it if Deku, with that kid, like, kind of re-sparked that back. Like, it kind of...
Yeah, because towards in the war arc, we didn't really see that put on Deku. Like, Deku, like, don't get me wrong, is a good hero, good person.
Good character.
I feel like he didn't adopt that smile.
Yes.
And and the thing is, like, if we look back at season 1, 2, and 3 of the anime, and basically matching it up to whatever those chapters are in the manga, we see Deku actually try to put on a smile multiple times.
Yeah,
but
like in the face of fear.
Yeah, but once we got to that vigilante arc, it's like, no more smile. That's always done, guys. It's over. Like, and I love the fact that we got All Might back when he was in basically his Iron Man suit era. And
yeah, that was really cool. That was really cool. I really love that. That got me hyped again, because I'm like, what is All Might gonna do, right? And I was like, yo, man, when Tony Stark on him, I was like, yo, that's sick, because his only job is just to hold him back.
It's funny. I was just telling everybody that. So in the last chapter where we see Deku gets a battle armor and stuff, it kind of is almost Horikoshi saying like, going all the way back to the speculations that people had when the series first came out. That there's a big chunk of the community that was like, oh man, I actually would prefer it if Deku didn't have a quirk and he had like a Batman tech suit and everything. So now we're here. Now we're full circle back to that idea of like, he's quirkless, but now he has only his strategies and a suit.
Yeah, like, I was thinking, like, because I thought what was going to happen was All Might sees this kid that is like, oh my gosh, this kid has, like, he inspired me to, like, help out someone, right? Like, he just went in with no ability, no quirk, right? And I thought how the series was going to come through was, like, this kid, Izuku Midoriya, is going to try to go to school with no quirk for like the whole series, and people, now his job is to make it look like he has a quirk when he doesn't, and like All Might is there to help assist him, but he could also get in trouble, right? But he sees so much potential in Deku that he's like, man, I can't leave this kid just like out like this, to the point where like maybe Deku has like a crazy moment. Again, this is like a my own headcanon type of stuff, but like, I think it would have been much more interesting, and it would challenge Horikoshi so much as a writer to be like, man, how can I make this quirkless kid become really cool and make it look like he got these powers, right? Yeah. And it's like, oh, his intellect, right, is, what if I just made this nerdy kid that surrounded himself with people that helped him basically make like a suit that helps him be able to, all these kind of things.
I think it would have been cool. My thing when it comes to stories is like, it's always easy to kind of come up with the concept of it, but then actually putting in the logistics of the twists and turns and the stuff is like really hard. So it's like, even though us as fans, we could be like, oh, I wish you did this, it's like, we have to, then he literally has to actually do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like Horikoshi be like, okay, let me try that. Be like, oh man, I have to really think about how I'm going to do this and make that happen. And
yeah,
you know, it's a logistics.
That's true.
It's just like someone coming to me and you as like video editors or something, and they're like, "Yo, can you make this?" And now you have to think about it, being like,
yeah, how long would it take? You know, realistically, what would I have to do to make it? How hard is it to do it?
Yeah.
Right, all that kind of stuff. I get it.
Do I want to do it? That's another thing.
Yeah, so I guess for me, I respect My Hero Academia for what it is. I think a lot of people, they struggle with that. They keep forgetting what My Hero Academia is. Okay, My Hero Academia, and from what I've been paying attention to the story, it's a story about how people, not Deku, okay, how everyone can become a hero. And that's what it literally said, right? It's a story about how everyone, not Deku, how everyone can be a hero. Yeah. Right? Because it only got limited to just quirk people. Yes. But you see in the end, now it's like Hawk, right? We see Hawk now is like the leader of the, pretty much like the government. Yeah, right?
Yeah, that organization.
Yeah, and he's allowing people to be able to use their quirks and to help out. Yes. But now with the introduction of the, you know, technology suits that you use for hero work, people who are quirkless can now become heroes. Well, with that like technology.
Well, that suit specifically at the end, based on what the dialogue was saying, was like specifically made for Deku.
Yeah, right.
Like it was like, yeah, this is an incredibly expensive suit. Like I mean, like Bakugo was like, I need my best friend.
Yeah.
To be back out here, so I'm gonna just do. How much money it costs? Dang. Everybody, we need to chip in for this.
The only thing is, like, I didn't see, like, what happened to Mario? Like, we didn't see Mario.
I think there's a dialogue option saying that, like, Mario's, like, at one of the top in the charts. Because remember, he graduated earlier.
Right, so yeah.
He's definitely doing his hero work, for sure.
Because, like, 8 years later, and Deku, I think, was 17. 17, so 8 years later, I think that's 22, 23. So at that, right now they're like 23, 24.
25. 17 plus 8, 25.
Yeah, they're like 25 years old. So, yeah, it's just, I would have, man, I would have really liked, because I was really hanging on to this theory of Eri, because we see that she's older. She has a bigger hand of, not bigger hand, but a better handle of her quirk. And this time she's able to specifically target certain things with her quirk to rewind. Right. And I don't know if I talked to you about it, but if they could somehow rewind Deku's quirk factor, and then basically essentially like restart it, or re-jump it, to the point where like now Deku has, he can basically start off from ground zero.
True. I feel like that's an option, but again, I think it comes back to like that sacrifice, right? It's like the idea of like, you know, a lot of people wanted to see more people die in the arc, but Horikoshi, like, he loves his characters, so when they see sacrifices, we see the scars, we see people can't do hero work anymore, they lost limbs. For Deku, I think the sacrifice being losing one for all, right? Like him being like hit, and I think that's a true representation of what it means to be a hero, is sacrificing something for other people. Yep. So Deku in that way sacrificed his ability to do hero work, to do the most heroic thing he could do, right? Yep. And you know, it's just a nice little added thing that they gave Deku that suit at the end to be like, hey, you can still be a hero, do this thing. Yes. You know? Yeah, it's basically like Iron Man, you know what I mean? That's it.
Yeah, like, man, My Hero, man, because I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw My Academia, I thought, like, what is this Power Rangers looking, because I remember when I first saw the cover art, I was like, what is these hero costumes, bro? You know, I wasn't a big fan of them because they were like, they just looked generic. And, you know, a friend of mine, he introduced me to the series. And from then, I think it was episode, I think what hooked me, was it the punch? I'm trying to think if it was either the Yusei run when Deku first ran into the villain, or the punch that he did with One for All that hooked me.
Yeah, what hooked me was when Deku, like, it was literally the run. It was literally when he ran to save Bakugo. That's when I got hooked. And then when I think that was my first hooking, and then the final hook that hooked me in was All Might seeing Deku do that and him being like, "What am I doing?"
Yeah, it's kind of like the idea, and it's not only him, right? You just see the other heroes who are just watching, right? Yeah. They're kind of like, "Bro, what is this kid doing, bro? We gotta do something." Right, but then they're also thinking like, yo, like my job is to, I can't, I can only like keep the fire out, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a difference between like doing your role,
yes, versus
like being like, okay, this is what my quirk can do, this is what I feel comfortable doing, I'm gonna do this, versus a hero sometimes steps outside of their conventional role to help other people. Again, it comes back down to that sacrifice.
Yeah, sacrifice.
It's an element of like, are you willing to sacrifice aspects of yourself or your own resources or whatever for other people? And so I think Hero Society became like, oh, this is what I could do. This is what I'm comfortable with. I'll help people this way, which is not a bad thing.
Yes,
but it does reflect back on the whole idea of like not sticking your neck out for other people.
Yeah,
right. Not even trying to help other people. Again, coming back to that old lady, seeing Shigaraki or Tomura, seeing him and being like, oh, a hero will handle it.
Yep.
Just like if we go back to that original episode, the heroes that were there at the time was like, oh, we're not, our quirks won't work for this person, so we'll wait for someone else to come to handle that.
Yeah.
So they were literally allowing.
Yeah, it was like the idea of like we'll wait for someone else to do it. When Deku showed that the answer really is like whoever is there, do it.
Yes.
Whoever is there, do it.
Even if you're not the best fit for the job.
Yep.
Get the job done.
Yep. And we see it from time to time again when it comes to Deku versus Muscular. We see Kota, even with this splash of water, right? Like, he thought it was useless, like, using that quirk, but, like, he wanted to do something to help.
It gave a little bit of attraction. It gave Deku a little bit of an opening to do what he needed to do. Yeah, It's like, any little bit helps, man.
Any little thing helps. So that's the whole point of My Hero for me. It's like, it's a story of how everyone becomes a hero in their own way.
Yeah.
And I think that it fits for what My Hero Academia is. Because I literally talked to a buddy of mine in the gym about the ending of My Hero Academia, right? And he was saying like it's kind of mixed for him, right? And I said for me, how I see it as like from a back end look. What's it called? Back end looking in.
Something like that, like outside looking in.
Outside looking in, yeah. I saw it as like remember what My Hero Academia is about.
Yes.
Right? Remember what is it about, okay? Like your headcanon, like whatever personal headcanon you got, is not like what it's about, right?
Yes.
I would say yes. There are certain things he can improve upon. Like even Horikoshi admits it, man. Like I do think that he was rushed at certain arcs that he's been on, and I could tell like Shonen Jump, Shueisha was probably like, hey bro, this arc is taking too long. You're losing ratings.
Yeah.
Try bringing back this character. Or whatever. You got probably all these people just telling him what to do. It was probably really annoying for Horikoshi, right? Because he's thinking to himself, well, no, I need to spend more time. I think, personally speaking, I feel like he should have made a movie on the villains.
A movie directly on the villains?
Yes, again, from their perspective, from their point of view. So, like, the movie could have been like, all right, like, we're looking at it from their perspective. Like, of course, we start off with the heroes, right? And then we kind of shift over to the villains. And then what could happen is, like, maybe, say, for example, the villains and the heroes fight. But if something happens where they're all, like, stuck,
Yeah.
Somewhere, like maybe a cave.
Could have
Right,
been
and they
cool,
all
like
got
this.
split up.
Like it could have been cool to see all the certain
Interact
heroes
with villains, yeah.
pairing up with, like them kind of like having no choice but to work together, and them actually seeing like, oh,
Wow, we could really work together.
and then being like, after that specific condition or situation done, being like, hey, we're still enemies, you know. But I can see that being an element of like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I can see it being like the end, like Shigaraki and Deku. Shigaraki's like, hey, I'm just letting you know, after we're done with this, I will say,
Yeah, finishing thoughts.
I think My Academia, the ending was fine. I think it was good. Me personally, it fit for what it was. Now, could have been better. Could have been like, oh, Deku's friends not ghosting him for all those years. But it's like, it's a realistic ending too, because like after high school, that's kind of what happens. Is like you start to what's the word? You start to separate yourself from the people you care about. But closing thoughts, I think My Academia overall was a great, phenomenal series. I think it was like a special series that had a lot of heart, and I think it's very rare these days for shonens to see that and to feel that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm excited to see what his next work is. Horikoshi's next work. I know for certain he's gonna take a long break.
Yeah, for sure.
Until he has his next installment.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and I would say to.
And it's the end of an era too, bro.
Yep, for sure.
Like people grew up with the series.
Yeah. So I would say, as my finishing thoughts about it is, this series was amazing. You know, the series was fantastic. I think the ending was kind of bittersweet, but I liked how it's kind of that element of like everyone coming back to still support Deku being a hero and chipping in some way to allow him to still do that. I think what the story was, and even though I feel like certain elements of the story got lost a bit in terms of like Horikoshi could have had more time to invest in certain characters and expand the story a little bit more, I think the main message of what My Academia is, in terms of everybody can be a hero and exploring what it means to be a hero, what it means to be a villain, and breaking that down, I think that wasn't lost. And amazing series at the end of the day. So thank you guys for sticking around for this long kind of just talk about My Hero Academia. Let us know in the comment section down below how you guys feel about the ending of the series and what it meant for you. And this is Buff All Might. This is Captain Trey Million. We'll catch you guys in the next one.
All right, take care.
Peace.
Peace.